Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's May. Oh my goodness, summer is sneaking up on us again. We want to get out to the beach, go out to the lake, go and do fun stuff. So let's keep doing some great work on ourselves and trying to stay healthy. So want to thank my sponsors who brought this episode to us. Of course, Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They're doing great work for allowing us to monitor sugar and ketone levels. And again, they're just doing great things in the community. They're always out helping people, and they're a great company. So please support them. And also Health Code, Get Health, GETHLTH.com. Great vanilla shakes and chocolate shakes. If you go to their website, they have tons of recipes, tons of tips, tons of great information from Ben Bickman about how to be metabolically healthy. So continue to support these great companies, and I thank you for continuing to listening. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine and Low Carb MD. We're doing this on both because we had to track this guy down. He's been writing books, training people, doing all this crazy stuff. And I know a lot of you know him already from past interviews that we've done on Low Carb MD for sure. Bronson Dant, welcome. Coach
Hey,
Bronson.
thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always good to come and talk to you. Ever since we met in Salt Lake a couple of years ago,
Yeah,
I
fun
feel like
time.
we always have good conversation and we're on the same page with a lot of things. So it's always good to have conversation with somebody you don't have to feel like you're fighting against in the convo.
Yeah, we try not to fight against people. We kind of go, okay, let me learn from you and see what's
Yeah,
going on. I think we all
that's
keep an open mind.
you would think, and I and that's most of the time I get that, but every once in a while you get on that podcast and somebody's got an idea about something and they want to kind of take you to the barn with it. And it's like, come on, man, like this isn't helping anybody. Let's work this out and figure out what's going to be the best option at the time for somebody, right? And that's a lot of the context of what my book is about. What I'm really focused on. My message now is there's a lot of information, and you may be right for what you're talking about, and I may be right for what I'm talking about, but that doesn't mean either of us are necessarily wrong.
Yeah, and I think it's so individualized, right? Some things are going to
Yeah.
work for one patient, not the other person, and so we all learn from each other, and your skills help my skills, and we all kind of find that out. And now you
Mm-hmm.
go from the ultimate ketogenic fitness book.
Yep.
It wasn't just an average one; it was the ultimate one.
Yeah, it was the ultimate. It's the absolute best book that anybody could read to understand how to make the ketogenic diet. And honestly, anything that you're doing, right? Because it's more about what is the process, and it kind of leads into the next book. I kind of lay the groundwork for some of the concepts in the next book in that first book. So, yeah, it's fitness, nutrition, mindset, all those types of things in that book, and then I kind of build on that and get a little more in detail in the next book, which is called Body Confident.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I'm excited to hear what you told me. You had new stuff that I had to learn about and know about, so that's kind of cool. So for people who don't know you, give them a little nutshell of your history. What got you, that you weren't always the fittest guy in the world, and what
Not at
snapped in
all.
your brain to get you on this path. And
Yeah,
and
I wasn't
yeah.
I wasn't always the fittest guy in the world, but I thought I was. Um, have you ever had that vision of yourself or that identity, and then one day you wake up and go, wait a second, that's not my life? And you kind of have to figure out, hey, I got to do something about this. Something is not in sync here. I'm not aligned with where I would think I am or thought I was or want to be versus what my day-to-day reality actually is. And that happened to me in my mid 30s. I realized that I wasn't the epitome of health and fitness and vitality that I thought I had, that I thought I was, because I still had this image of who I was when I joined the army, at 18, where I worked out every day and did all these amazing things. And I had been, working in IT, sitting behind a desk, had got married, 4 kids, divorced. I was just chilling and loving life and eating Five Guys, or not Five Guys, eating Red Robin and pizza and pad thai and ice cream and Dunkin' Donuts with, a little coffee with my sugar and all those things every day. And, I was almost 250 pounds, my mid to late 30s. And I realized something has to change. So I started, working on my nutrition a little bit and trying to get rid of French fries. It took me a year to stop eating French fries, to crave and not be kind of obsessed with French or any fried potato. French fries, tater tots, hash browns didn't make a difference. Um, and while I was doing that, I started CrossFit. I got into fitness and just kind of had a reawakening to uh, reintroduction to what health meant from a physical ability perspective. And that's really where everything kind of builds from there. When I started doing CrossFit, started getting physical, improving my physical ability, I started realizing how much better I felt, even though I hadn't necessarily initially I didn't start losing weight. The health issues that I was having, my urgent bowels, my acne, my depression, all these other things I was dealing with hadn't gotten really better. But because I could move better, I started feeling better. And then eventually that kept me coming back and I built the consistency. And then I got to a point where I was in great shape, um, opened a CrossFit gym, but then realized, hey, wait a second. I'm physically more improved. My life has improved dramatically. I'm healthier. I feel better, but I still have all these health issues. And now on top of that, because I was still eating basically the same way, I had obviously improved some. I wasn't doing, Red Robin every day and pad thai 3 times a week and eating a whole meat lovers pizza in one sitting anymore. I had gone kind of paleo, Whole30, all whole foods, wasn't really doing a lot of sugars. I was still drinking alcohol at the time, and all sorts of things. So I was still eating. It was less inflammatory. It was less a negative impact, but it wasn't a positive impact. And I want people to understand that it is possible to eat food and your nutrition can be less negative, and you're going to see improvement in your health. But that doesn't mean your nutrition is a positive. And when you can find a way to eat that as a positive to your life, because we see that we tend to think that, when this is a total segue right now, because this thought just went through my head. So let's just ride the wave. When we see the improvement in our health because we make changes to our nutrition, we think, oh, this is doing something good for me. And it is, but because you're taking things away. And in many cases, that is a red herring because we take things away and we get better. So we think that diet is what we need. And that might not be the case. It's more about what you took away than what you added. So don't not falling into the trap of just because there's improvement doesn't mean your nutrition is helping you. It's a really weird concept to kind of wrap your head around. There is a way to eat, and there are things that you can eat that add to your metabolic function, that add to your quality of life. And and when you can identify what those things are, which we'll talk about, then you're doing a net positive, and nothing you do is going to be a bad decision. So the label that's on it doesn't really make a difference, right? It's the result that matters. So just something to think about there. So I realized that I had made a bunch of changes. I lost a bunch of weight. I had gotten lean. I was, in shape, all these types of things. But then I had urgent bowels. I had the acne. I had the depression. Because I was now way more physically active, but I was also still inflamed because of what I was eating. I was now getting overtraining injuries. Even though I didn't feel like I was overtraining, I felt good, except I didn't. Like I'd go into a workout feeling good, and then I'd pull something. I'd go into a workout feeling good, and then, oh, I've got torn labrums in both my shoulders. Oh, I've got a torn meniscus in my knee. Oh, I've got a pulled groin. Oh, I just ripped my calf. Like it was this consistently over and over and over again for a couple of years. And then my body composition started to go backwards again. So a few years into this, I got fit. All these things are happening. Now I can only train 2, maybe 3 days a week without feeling like I got hit by a bus. And I started putting weight back on again. I saw a picture of myself at a client's house at a pool party, and I'm on the diving board, and I looked like that 38-year-old who had seen himself, 8 years before. I'm in my mid 40s now. And it's like, he's the same guy. And here I am owning a CrossFit gym, trying to explain to people how to improve their quality of life and get in shape. And it hit me like a truck again. It's like, okay, my reality and my image aren't matching. What do I need to do to change? I couldn't change anything on the fitness because I was already knocking that out of the park, or so I thought. So that around that time is when I was introduced to the carnivore diet. I was like, I've tried everything else. What the heck? I might as well give that a shot. Within 90 days, totally different lifestyle, completely different lifestyle. Um, Aches and pains gone, working out 5, 6 days a week, feeling amazing. 6 to 8 months into it, all of my lifts, my strength, my performance, energy, all the benchmarks that I was working out against were improved. I had set new personal records in pretty much everything that I was doing. Urgent bowels gone, acne gone. I think I've had 2 zits in the last 6 years. Right. Um, I'm naturally a positive guy, and I went through a really tough time in COVID. Lost the gym, COVID in and of itself, lockdowns, a bunch of stuff. Lost 85% of my business, my online business. Like a lot of stuff happened, and I went through a tough time. But I truly believe that if I had been on a standard American diet or a regular diet during that time, it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I'm
It would
glad
have
you
been a
bring
lot
these
worse,
things up too, like
right?
with the stress and depression and mood stuff.
Yeah.
And, so when you were exercising at a high level, that helped your mood somewhat, or did it not really
Oh,
have much of an
absolutely.
impact?
It
Yeah.
did. It did. Yeah, absolutely. The community of the people that I was working with, and it wasn't like I was walking around in a funk all the time, but the things that would irritate me, the things that would frustrate me, the things that would set me into a kind of a cycle. And it's not like a cycle of I'd be depressed for weeks at a time, but it was a constant battle to try to stay positive about things. And to see the good, the silver lining and stuff. Because that's I like to do that. I'm a very growth minded person, and I try to stay positive and always look at the bright side. And as a coach, I feel it's my responsibility to do that because I want to set the example for the people I'm helping. It was hard for a long time. Something changed. Uh, it just the only thing I can say to describe it is there was a cloud over everything in my life. Like I was working my butt off to try to make all these things happen. And when I found the nutrition configuration components that worked for me and took me to that next level, it was like the weights came off, right? It was like the chains that were holding me
Yeah, like the
back just kind
fog
of fell
opens and
off,
you
fell
can
off. Yeah, it was just
see
like,
the
oh
light
my
again. And
God,
I've heard that.
everything is working the way I was expecting it to work when I just started doing fitness. But
And
I
then
needed the fitness and the nutrition.
you go through being in the fitness industry, and that was a frustration too. I have friends here in town who, built their practices up and, really were helping a lot of people. Then COVID hits and they go, you
Yep.
can have two people in your gym at a time, unless you're a physical therapist. And, it's crazy. I went to visit him. He was really going through a hard time. And I went to visit him because, he has rent, he has all this stuff he's got to pay, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't generate income.
Yeah.
And so that the irony, I drove past right next to his place, there's a strip club that was packed with cars,
Packed with
and you go,
exactly. Yeah.
holy cow, how can that be? And there's like tons of, I'm like, you can't work out. That
Yep.
that's
And gyms were getting shut down, and gym owners getting arrested, and I mean all this other kind of stuff. It was
padlocking their
crazy.
doors and all that.
Padlocking their
Because
doors. Yeah.
yeah, and you go
Exactly.
through that, and when you're finally getting, the mental part of it, and you're getting all this together, and then boom, this kind of thing hits.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So it was hard, but being where I was, finding that rhythm really kind of kept me metabolically. And when I say metabolically, I also mean mentally, because mental health is part of metabolic function, which we're going to talk about a little
Yeah.
bit. I want to help people understand what I mean when I say that. Um, I think if I had been any less healthy metabolically, then the mental aspect of the things that were already hard would have been way harder to deal with. If that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, when
That's
you're
that
in the
that
fog and you're
allostatic
already,
load, right? That total load of all the things that were going on in my head, in my body, and in my environment and everything else. If I also had physical illness and physical inflammation and metabolic syndrome and metabolic dysfunction on top of that, it would have been, I can't even imagine.
You're inflamed,
how
you're
things
hurting,
are
you don't
going.
want to go to the gym, you're depressed, your clothes aren't
Yeah.
fitting right, all those things. And I love that you're bringing this up because Tro and I talked about this 5 or 6 years ago because we were seeing it. This is what we were seeing in our patients. Like,
Yeah.
okay, your diabetes gets better, you lose some weight, great. But when people are like, I'm laughing again, I'm enjoying my neighbors, I had never met my neighbors, I'm like doing sports that I never did before and I'm having fun
Yes.
and I'm finding new clubs, I'm doing CrossFit. And when we said that, doctors attacked us. It's me specifically online on Twitter saying, you should have your medical license revoked for saying that diet has anything to do with mental functioning.
See, and that's the basic look, I'm not a doctor, right? At the basic level, here's one thing that I've learned, and this is something I talk about in the book. And it's there's a whole probably chain we could talk about why this is important. And I think the number one thing that message I try to get people to understand is that your problem has nothing to do with your weight. If we can get people to understand, we talk about metabolic syndrome all the time. Metabolic syndrome is the leading issue, right? Systemic inflammation, whatever you want to call it, is the leading issue of health. It's the root cause of pretty much all chronic disease in the country, right? And we say that, and then people come to me and they come to you and they do all these things. I want to lose weight. Wait a second. We didn't say that weight was the leading cause of all chronic disease. We said metabolic syndrome, chronic inflammation, right? That's the leading cause of chronic disease. So why are you coming to me about losing weight? Fix metabolic syndrome. What is metabolic syndrome? What is your metabolism? And the health industry, the fitness industry, has done such a good job at brainwashing people into thinking that all they need is a weight loss solution and all their problems will be solved, that nobody knows what metabolism really is. And I talk about this in the book, and we go into detail to help people understand that when we talk about fitness, fitness, the components that go into fitness are measurable biomarkers for health, just like A1C, hypertension, C reactive protein, or anything else, right? Your ability to get a good night's sleep is a biomarker for health, just like lean muscle mass, endurance, VO2 max, RMR, all of these different things, right? So all of these things are aspects of our quality of life and our ability to function that directly relate to metabolic function. When we talk about metabolism, everybody thinks of metabolism as it's slow or it's fast. I'm burning or I'm not burning. And that's a kindergarten level understanding of metabolic function. Okay. And I'm saying that as a kindergartner because I don't have a PhD. I've never, been to school to learn this stuff, but I have learned enough in my time to understand that metabolic function is made up of three systems. It's our biology, it's our neurology, and it's our physiology. And we cannot talk about metabolism in a bubble of energy consumption because that doesn't solve anything about any of the systems of function that actually make up our metabolism. And people can understand that and they can start looking at, hey, wait a second, if I want to fix the problems that I'm having in my life, whether they be physical limitations, disease, illness, or whatever, mental health challenges, if I can look at the metabolic foundation that I am I and ask myself, am I supporting the systems of function? Then that gives me a much more accurate mark to shoot for in solving the problems that I have in my life. Everybody's trying to lose weight, but that's not fixing any problems. And it's not sustainable. And you're probably going to do more to harm metabolic function if all you're doing is focusing on weight loss. And it's going to make your problems worse. And you're going to go up and down and you're going to fall on, you're going to come on, you're going to come off, you're going to quit, you're going to start, you're going to try this. It's going to last for 6 months and you're going to start putting the weight back on again. And then you're going to try something else. You're going to do a challenge. You're going to try a detox. Yeah, all of these different things. And then you're just going to be frustrated. And 10 years down the road, you're exactly where you were 10 years ago. But now you have hormone dysfunction. Your thyroid's all screwed up, or some other thing is going. You got
Mm-hmm.
autoimmune disease. Like it just the compounding negative effect of focusing on weight loss. I hope people can understand. The more you focus on that, the more long term. I don't want to say damage, but the more long term potential detriment you have to your overall health.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that. I had a patient, and it just really sticks in my brain. And I think subsequently she ended up getting a gastric bypass. But when she was under
Yes.
my
Yep.
care, she came in and and she worked at the hospital and she had so many health problems, right? It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like she would sweat all the time. She had anxiety attacks and panic attacks and acne. And you go through the list, fatigue. So she went keto for a while. And what happened? I see her in follow up, and I'm like,
Hmm.
so what happened? Why'd you stop? And I said, how was it when you were doing? She said, oh, my acne went away, my panic attacks went away, my blood pressure got better, everything got better. But
Yep.
I only lost 5 pounds, so I said, forget it, it's not worth it. But I said, all your stuff got better.
Yeah.
And if you're putting on muscle mass, who cares, right? I mean,
Who cares? Absolutely.
yeah, you want to feel better, but you go back and say, well, I'm just going to get a gastric bypass because that will be easier. It's not
Yeah.
easier because you got all these other health problems that happen after that.
Yeah. And I really, I blame the food industry, the health and fitness industry. I blame all of these top level, top down systems that we have in place in society that tell people that as long as you're skinny, you're fine. Because it's been 30, 40, 50 years of brainwashing that it's just as long as you can get skinny, everything's going to be fine. And people, I hope, are starting to realize that skinny does not mean free.
It doesn't
And
mean happy, and it doesn't
and it
mean
doesn't mean
you're
happy.
healthy too, right?
Yeah. And I know I would say here's something to think about. You're in medicine. How many senior citizens do you know that are skinny that die on a bed unable to sit up?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
if we're
And
talking about
that's,
that, and I know this is
you
your
know,
area, but if you
yeah.
look at longevity, muscle mass, muscle strength, right, it
Oh,
is going to be the number one indicator, whether you smoke, drink, whatever else you do. If you have muscle mass, and we see it too from the metabolic perspective. So someone like Sean Baker, right, you have tons of
yeah.
muscle mass. He's not gonna have any visceral fat, and visceral fat is what we're coming back to with this insulin resistant, high insulin,
Hmm.
high glucose, high triglycerides, all these things. So people with muscle mass, and I've seen it. I mean, I'm telling you, it's unusual, but it's not unheard of. Where someone, I have a lady, she's 320 pounds, all of her metabolic markers are normal, right? She just
But she's
stores
got a ton of muscle,
subcutaneous,
right?
tons of muscle, and she has no
Yeah.
visceral fat. So I was
Yep.
like, you know what? She goes, I want to be healthier. I was like, okay, it's going to be calories at this point, right? Because her insulin's at 3, right?
Hmm.
And she's
Hmm.
super, super, she just eats a lot, and she has a
Yeah.
lot of muscle. And so, anyways, but on the contrary, I've seen people, I have a guy who's 158 pounds who had full blown type 2 diabetes with six pack abs. And you go, how can that be? He was
Yeah.
carb loading all the time and his pancreas just gave up. So I can't keep up with this. And he has diabetes. So you're right. You can't just look at someone and go, oh, they're healthy or they're not healthy.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where, we talk about the systems of function and metabolism. One of the other, we were talking before you started recording about the definition of words and how everybody throws words around in the space all the time. Bioindividuality is one of them that really drives me crazy, because understanding that term in reality, I think people use it as a marketing term. People use it to make excuses for why things aren't working for them. Well, that's not working for you because uh, I'm different. My bio individuality means that's not going to work for me. Whatever that argument is, and I want your listeners, for those that have ever heard that phrase, to understand that in reality, the bio individuality um, is really, I don't know if the proxy is the right word, a stand in for the concept that everybody's body is impacted by the person's background, by the person's genetics, yes, but it's also impacted by their thought processes. It's impacted by their perception of the world. It's impacted by their schedule. It's impacted by their relationships. It's impacted by the physical environment that they live in. Like there's a whole bunch of things that go into your individual context. And it's not just I'm genetically different. It's
Yeah.
way more nuanced than that.
And I think we throw that on there, and some people, I heard someone like Peter Balish say one time, says, look, you can't get a basset hound, throw it on the treadmill, then it becomes a greyhound, right? So
Right.
some of us are going to have a build that where we're just not going to have six pack abs, or we're not going to be, this 6'4", whatever. But I think you go, okay, I want to be the best basset hound that I can be then, the
Yes.
healthiest
Yes.
basset hound.
Well, and that's the trap, right? We look at what we're trying to do and we think, okay, well, You can't make a basset hound a greyhound, but that's a level of specificity that isn't where anybody who's just trying to become metabolically healthy needs to be worried about. That's like saying, well, I currently can't get off the couch without my knees hurting, and I want to become an NBA basketball player. That's
Yeah.
not what we're talking about. We're talking about you want to be able to get up off that couch, do whatever you want to do in your house, in your yard, play with your kids, go on a hike, live your life, and be able to do things on your terms because you have the physical ability to do it for whatever your life is,
Yeah,
right?
and I
If
know
we're
you've
And
you've
that's
you,
what we're talking about.
and you focus on that too, is functional movements, right? Where you can
Absolutely.
load your groceries, you can do things there. Because I'm telling you, I see people getting older and they can't do anything for themselves.
Oh
Even
no.
they're having everyone has to help them, and whether you're thin or heavy or whatever, both on both
Yep.
extremes, but not having the muscle mass. And the funny thing was, when I first came to the low carb community, how many times I hear people say, all you have to do is just go low carb, go up on your fat intake, and you don't have to exercise at all, and you'll lose weight.
They're still
Yes,
saying it. They're still saying it.
they're
It drives
still
me
saying
crazy.
it,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's crazy because you go, okay, if you don't have muscle mass, okay,
What are you gonna do?
yeah, what are
Yeah.
you gonna do?
It Well, even in the low carb space, right? It's like the number one thing that you can do to manage your insulin and create a dump, right? A sink for all this glycogen that you may have in your body that you want to eat, whatever. Even I want to eat more carbs. Okay, eat more carbs, whatever. Build more muscle.
Yeah,
Muscle is, Dr. Lyons says muscle is the organ of longevity, and that is absolutely true. Muscle is the number one thing that you can do to focus on in your journey that will solve the most problems that you're having. Literally. The one thing, if there was one thing that anybody asked me, what should I focus on to see more progress in my journey? I would say do everything you possibly can to build as much muscle as possible. And
yeah, that's
you will
huge.
have more things go better for you in the short term and in the long term than anything else that you could do. Better, more than fasting, more than red light, more than cold therapy, more than any other biohack out there. It's the absolute best biohack in the world is to build muscle. Because here's the thing. Because not only you're gonna get me on a rant now, not
I love
only
it, man.
does
Love it.
it help improve metabolic function, right? And all the interactions that muscle has with metabolic function, hormones, endocrine system, immune system, all of the different things, increase mitochondrial density, all of the different things. You build muscle, all these things, good things happen. It's the activity of building muscle that also provides a net positive, a net plus. So in order to build muscle, what do I have to do? I have to increase protein. Oh, I'm increasing protein. So now I'm increasing the thermic effect of food that I'm eating. Hey, wait, I might actually burn fat without having to think about doing cardio. Holy crap. I'm building muscle. Muscle's using up more energy. I'm eating protein. It's more thermically active. There's a whole nother aspect of it. Wait a second. If I exercise, I'm improving my motor function. So now I'm affecting neurological systems in my central nervous system. I'm improving my balance and coordination and accuracy of movement. So, okay, great. I'm also improving my stamina and my endurance. I'm getting stronger. I'm reducing my risk for injury, right? All of these things happen. And it's not just the muscle, but the actions that you need to take to build the muscle also have their own benefits as well that improve your physical everyday living and those activities of daily living people are struggling with because they have to do both of those in order for that to happen.
Yeah, and also just getting outside, going to the gym, going, seeing birds,
Yeah.
knowing there's stuff
Oh,
outside and not, yeah,
there's a whole
huge.
nother aspect, right? There's the community aspect, there's the
Yeah.
building the routine, there's the confidence that comes. And this is what the book is all about. We're going to talk about this. This is a good segue. Confidence that comes with it, the mental health aspect of, body confidence. And this is how we define body confidence. Body confidence is the freedom to engage in life because you trust your body to perform and protect you. It has nothing to do with feeling good about how you look, right? And a lot of people think that I'm confident because I look good. No, when a fit person walks into a room and everybody goes, "Ooh," it's not because they look good. It's because the confidence that they walk in with, because they know the work that they put in
Hmm.
to have the physical ability to do what they can do. They know what they're capable of. They challenge themselves every single day, and then they overcome that challenge. So they have proof every single day that they can do something hard and come out the other side. That's body confidence.
Yeah,
And that's what the book is all about.
and you can take someone who's 400 pounds and now they can get up off the ground, right? That's body confidence too.
Absolutely.
When you
Absolutely.
can
And the
start
thing,
doing these things and
yes,
start being able to say, oh, now I can go and, make my bed by myself, whatever it is, just
whatever it
taking
is.
those steps.
I don't know how many clients I have that I get messages from over and over and over. Little stuff like that, little stuff. I had a woman text me one time and say, Coach, I opened a jar for the first time in 20 years being married to my husband. I didn't have to ask him for help. That little thing, she was so proud of that. Like she could get a jar of pickles and open up a jar of pickles and not have to ask for help for the first time in being married for 20 years. She Here's the thing that here's the even cooler part about that. 20 years of proven inability to do that her consistently working out over a period of time gave her the confidence to say, I wonder if I can do that now.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about. It's creating the curiosity about what your body can do and trying something, not being afraid to say, I wonder if, can I? Let me
Yeah.
try.
And
Where a
then you
lot of
go,
people now won't even attempt.
then you say, well, I can open a jar. Maybe I could do this now, right? There's a
Exactly. And then it
possibility to open
builds.
that.
Yeah, it builds on each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, it's so huge. I think, that's such a huge thing of looking at the mental aspect of it. And then, a lot of, and one thing that just while we're talking, I don't know why it keeps coming to my mind, but I've had so many people tell me, well, I just don't have the energy to exercise. I'm too tired all the
Mm.
time that I'm like, well, if you exercise, you'll have the energy to exercise. You just
Yeah.
got to get there, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. The hormone impact, when you start moving, your body says, hey, I need to get ready to start moving, and it enables you to start moving. So, it you understand, right? It's you got different part, different systems of the nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic. When we start moving, our body starts doing things with our hormones and starts doing things with our blood and starts, getting that adrenaline and starts pumping blood and starts moving. It starts shutting down digestion. It starts doing all these different things, right? To say, hey, you're getting ready to do something. I want you to be good at. I want you to perform. So the action, if you ever, here's two things to understand. If you're ever not feeling like you want to do it, once you get started doing it, your body will get you there. It will follow along, right?
Yeah. So many
Number
times I'm
number
like, I'm going to do a 20-minute workout. I'm just going to go and do something. I get there. I'm like, you know what? I got time. I can go.
Yeah,
I feel like running on the treadmill today. I feel like doing something different or talking or whatever. And these kind of things or just going for a little hike and you get out and go, I can go farther. Let's go around
yes,
the other block or whatever, once you
yes,
get out there. But the inertia is getting there.
yes. And that's the thing, like you said, I like how you said, if you don't have the energy to go, that's when you should go.
No, I don't have the
Every
time to
ex
work out. That's when you need to work out. Yeah, I'm too stressed. I
Exactly.
got too much stuff going on. Well, that's when you need it the most.
Exactly. And I tell people that any excuse that you can come up not to do it is actually the reason why you should. Every single time. I've never heard an
Wow, that's
excuse. I've
great.
never heard an excuse that wasn't a reason if you flip it.
Hmm. That's great. Yeah, I think a lot of people will identify with that. We all do. It's like, oh, it's gonna be too cold, or my friend's not going. And I think having someone that you do with too, like having a coach like yourself, or having a friend that you go, okay, they're gonna like my buddy. It's a given. Tomorrow morning we're gonna ride our bike. If I don't, he's
Mm-hmm.
gonna flip out because that's our time, right? Like he'll tell
Yeah.
me what time are we meeting, where are we going, and so it's great. Then the one day you want to sleep in, so many times we get there and we're riding, and I was like, man, I was so tired, I didn't want to go. He goes, me either, but I knew you would want to go, so
Yeah.
we got each other there and we had a great time. So I think
Yep.
it's
Yep.
those things
I'm
of having that camaraderie.
Yeah, and that's again, that's a thing that consistency, a reminder about consistency. That's what wins in the long run. Um, I'm at a point right now in my journey where with all the things I have going on, right? I still work a 9 to 5. I still have a regular job. I've got the book, I've got my coaching business. I'm starting a master's program in a few months. So I've got a lot of stuff going on, right? I'm at a point now in my schedule where I just make a commitment to go to the gym every day. I don't know, have any idea what I'm going to do. I'm not worried about following if I were to try to follow a program right now, I would be like, I don't want to do that today. It would be a blocker mentally for me. So
Mhm.
now I go and I think, As long as I show up, even if I decide all I'm going to do is go hop on a bike for 30 minutes, then I did something. I checked the box. I went and I did something today. Right.
Mm.
You usually end up and I go and, like last night, I ended up working for, did a crap ton of heavy deadlifts and a bunch of other things. And I was like, I'll probably only be there for half an hour. And, an hour and 20 minutes later, I'm walking out the door. And that's kind of what happens most of the time. But just making the commitment to show up, even if you're not exactly sure what you're going to do, is probably going to result in better outcome than not going at all.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things you do with people? Like what are the biggest stumbling blocks, the things that you say prevent people from improving health?
Labels. I think that's the biggest thing. And not labels on food, labels on your identity.
Mm.
I'm keto, I'm carnivore, I'm a CrossFit person, I'm a power lifter, I'm a Zumba, whatever it may be. When you identify with what you're doing, you close off options that could help you get to the next level.
It's funny when you said labels, when I was thinking of labels, the way I was thinking about it was I'm just lazy. I have no willpower. I just
That's
don't,
another one. That's a
yeah,
whole
we
nother
label
one, right?
ourselves and go, I'm just lazy.
Yeah,
I'm always late. That's just the way I am. It's like, well,
yeah,
not when you have an appointment.
yeah,
When we
right.
get on
Yeah,
the
not when
plane,
you
are
have
you
a
late to the
job.
plane?
Yeah,
No, you
yeah,
can't be, or you're
absolutely.
staying home, right?
Yeah, and labels. I think you could say identity is another way to talk about that concept is when you start building who you are around the things that you're doing instead of the goals that you have or the lifestyle that you want to live. I want to identify with the lifestyle that I have or that I want, not what I'm doing to get there. I'm not carnivore. I stopped saying that I was carnivore 2 years ago. I eat an animal-based diet. That's how I describe what I do, right? Because it is animal-based. But you know what? At Thanksgiving, I had pumpkin pie. I had some cheesecake. I don't know. I'm not dead. Oh my God. I'm still alive. You know,
Well, I
we
think
went to
then that's
breakfast.
that's exactly. I think you say that, like, if you sit down to talk to someone like Sean Baker, like they don't care what you eat. They don't get
Right.
like, oh my gosh, you had what? You put butter on
Right.
that, or you know what I mean? Most people, oh, you had salad. Oh my gosh, you're out. But some people, the followers are the ones who get more radical than the people who kind of came up with this whole because that's their
Absolutely.
identity. If you outside that, you're in trouble. And so,
Well, and
yeah,
it limits you because there may be somebody who's like, you know what? I identify. I see this. This is the common one that really drives me crazy. I'm identified as a high fat carnivore. Okay, great. What happens when that stops working for you? Now you have to lose your identity, which the mindset around losing your identity and creating a whole new identity when you don't want to is a whole ball of wax that most people don't even want to get into.
hmm
Right? We don't want to talk about loss of identity. We could talk about what I went through when I had to sell my CrossFit gym and how devastating that was to me because I didn't know this at the
that's
time.
your identity, and that's what
That
you
that was
do,
my
and that's
identity.
your
I
future.
was the
Yeah.
CrossFit guy. I owned this gym. I didn't know who I was if I didn't own the gym. Right? I had about 8 months of complete loss of identity, who I was. I didn't know who I was, right? For almost a year when I sold that. And it was devastating for me. So when you're willingly doing that and calling yourself or identifying with what you're doing for your food options, your food choices, you're immediately limiting. Well, what happens if high fat carnivore stops working for you for whatever reason?
hmm
And hey, I'm putting on weight. I'm not as physically able as I want to be because I'm not building as much muscle. I'm not exercising. This was all about losing weight. And I lost weight for the first 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half. But now things are going the opposite direction. I'm having some issues. I'm having some hormone issues. I'm having some of this. I'm having some of that. I'm losing lean mass. Well, but I'm high fat carnivore. That's what I need to be doing. Well, now you have to figure out what happens when that doesn't work for you anymore. And the whole
Yeah,
process of changing that now it's a huge uphill climb.
that's a huge one again, and I'm glad you bring that up because in the low carb community, there's some people are focused on really high fat. Other people are saying no, more lean, right? It's all
Yeah,
about protein, and so you get into these debates, and I think you go, okay, where are you at metabolically, and how's that working for you? So I've had to change my stuff, right? I'm got to
yeah,
do. I can't be Sean Baker; it doesn't work for me. So I go, okay, let me think about what works for me better
right.
than. But you can't be so pigeonholed and so dogmatic that you go, I'm not changing one. It's not working, but I'm gonna keep doing it. Then we're no different than anyone else in the world, right? It's not
Exactly.
working. Like, how's that, Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? Your life's a
Yeah.
disaster. And this is what I do. It's like, well, it's not working. Clearly,
It's not
your
working. You got
wife
to do
just
something
left you.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And when you identify with it, it's a lot harder to change. It's a lot harder. Well, number one, it's a lot harder to accept that it's not working because this has to work. This is the right way to do it. Well, no, it's not. It's a way that was working for you at one point,
Or it
right?
never worked. I mean, look at the food
Or that's a
pyramid, the
whole,
ADA diet, and you
yes.
look and you go, gosh dang it, do they think no one's listening to them? It's
Yeah.
not working, guys. It's not working.
Yeah.
We're in a disaster situation. So we have to change our mindset at some point. Okay, it's not working.
Right.
If there's a new medicine and we try it and it doesn't work for anyone, no matter how great they say it is, we say, well, it's not working. It doesn't work. It doesn't help people. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard thing when you get so like that is your identity. And I like that when you're talking about labels because so many will label you and go, they're carnivore. Like, if Sean Baker eats a cookie, he's gonna go to prison or something. You know what I mean? Like he may find,
And
hey, I
that's,
need to change up my diet if you start getting health problems. And I think there are potential problems from not having a diverse microbiome, maybe, or you may get gut inflammation. There may be stuff that we start seeing going the wrong way. It
there's a,
could be way down the road, right?
yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that we don't, there's so much we don't know about this because the whole idea is, I mean, I know when I started in 2018 eating animal based, there wasn't anything. I didn't have any scientific research to go off of,
But
really.
you improved
You know, you
physically,
know,
you improved and you felt better and your mood
right? But
got
I
better and
improved and
everything
I
got
felt
better.
better. I was my science experiment, and that's what a lot of people need to understand too. But from the label perspective, from the locking yourself in and being willing to try and understand this isn't working, um, we have to be able to acknowledge when something's not working, like you were just saying, and then understand the concepts of why it may have been working or why something works in the first place.
And what
Because
changed?
it's
Yeah, what
not the
changed? Yeah.
protocol, it's not necessarily the protocol that is the secret. And this is where people get stuck. We think about protocols and that magic pill that key that's going to fix everything. It's the question we get all the time. What's the best way to dot dot dot? Well, the best way to dot 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 has I can't tell you that because I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where you're trying to go. I don't know what you're doing now. Right. So the best way to do X, Y, or Z is going to be totally different for each person. So that is not something that anybody can answer as a blanket general response. So when we get to the point where people are talking about principles over protocols, we're going to see a lot more people have a lot more success. The principles behind good nutrition are nutrient density, bioavailability, and satiety. The principles behind good fitness is move well, move weight, and move often. If you can understand and if you can answer those questions, am I getting the most nutrient dense thing that's available to me today? Am I eating it in a way that's as bioavailable as possible? And is this going to support my natural satiety response? Then you're probably making a good choice. I don't care if it's kale or a steak. However you're doing it,
Yeah.
however you're getting it, if you can say yes to those three questions, then you're probably making a better choice for your health.
Yeah, I think there's so many we get so tribal, and that's one thing I've noticed a lot. Like someone says one thing, or the worst thing on Twitter, someone posts a picture of what they had for lunch, and there's gonna be people like, "Oh my gosh, you had lettuce? Oh my gosh, you had a
Right,
cheese on
right.
there? Oh, you had nuts on the side, whatever." And it's so like, okay, cool, it's working for you, enjoy it. Like if someone's vegan and they're doing well, great. But if you start
Yeah.
having depression, mood stuff, and
All
loss
kinds
of
of
muscle
other
mass, you go,
metabolic stuff.
okay,
Yeah,
this could be a problem down the road if you're losing a lot of
absolutely.
muscle mass, right? If you're skinny but you're like have no muscle, like we've discussed already, that may be an issue for you. So does
Yeah,
adding some eggs in or some protein may be a good idea,
yeah. And
right?
that's a great example of what I was talking about with, understanding that there are positives to be gained by removing things, but that doesn't mean what you're eating is a net positive. A lot of people go keto and replace all their standard American foods with keto versions of crap.
Yeah, you're using
And they're
almond flour
seeing,
instead of white
yeah,
flour,
they're
right?
using almond flour or they're using a shake mix or they're doing whatever, or they're, you know, all the different things that are out there, who, erythritol and all the different sweeteners and all these other things. And they're seeing an improvement initially because the macros are changing, right? But the nutrient profile isn't.
Mm.
So they're wondering, okay, I've lost a lot of weight, but you're not fixing metabolic function
Mm-hmm.
because you're not improving your nutrient density. You're not improving your bioavailability.
Or
You're
you,
only
or,
focused on weight loss and body composition, not
or
metabolic
you're
function.
stressing yourself out, weighing yourself 5 times a day, and when it,
That's a
what,
whole nother, yeah.
yeah, all the stress that we put ourselves under. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
huge thing. If you're not sleeping and you're not, getting to the gym, you're not, all these stress hormones like cortisol and insulin and how they all kind
Mm-hmm.
of interact. So that's been kind of my focus over the last year and a half or so. Just look and say, why is it some people like I can kind of meet people go, it's gonna be a rough road, because they're a single mom with 3 kids and they got all these things and they get all these
Yeah.
responsibilities. I don't have time to prepare my food. I don't have time to exercise, and they're stressed. They're texting while they're, in front of their kids and, just being that, like you said, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So if we can
Yeah.
slow things down, the problem is a lot of us feel guilty if we have so much stuff to do and responsibilities. Like if I go sit on the beach and look at the ocean for an hour, like I got all
Oh,
kinds of other
sure.
stuff to do.
Yeah. And that's a mindset thing. That's a limiting belief, perception. A lot of what I work with my clients in the coaching side of things is understanding, self-care isn't selfish. We can get into that whole discussion of, you know, the as a parent, particularly understanding that yes, you want to take care of your kids, um, but you can't take care of your kids without taking care of yourself.
Yeah, some of the people in the
You
worst
know?
shape are the kindest people because they care about everyone else. They
Yeah,
go, I don't have time to take care of myself. I got to
yeah.
take care. My sister's sick. I got to go over here to, I'm volunteering at this
That
place.
is that
Yeah.
is most of that is probably 70% of my clientele. Moms and caregivers. A lot of that are issues that you have to understand for anybody listening who's dealing with that struggle of feeling like a bad person or a bad mother or a bad wife or a bad daughter. If your mom is sick or your dad is sick and you have to take care of them, or your sibling is sick and you're taking care of them, um, those the best thing that you can do for the people that you care about is be at 100% as much as possible. And you can never, ever be at 100% if you never take the time to get there.
Hmm. Yeah.
You are always giving half of yourself. You're always this is, I don't know. I've said this to one person in a consultation. If you're not taking the time to take care of yourself and do what you need to do to be healthy and functional, then you are half-assing the care for everyone else
Yeah.
because you're not all there.
And a lot of
You're
us
not all
docs
there.
are in
You
that
don't have anything
situation,
to
right?
give.
Yeah,
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 you
yeah.
don't
You
have
burn
anything to give.
out. You burn out. People don't care anymore, and they're just going through the motions. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's true. And you can't please everyone. You can't take care, care of everything. And so that's another one is all the time they'll say, "Well, I would do this, but my husband doesn't support me. He's bringing home cookies, and I have to eat cookies if he brings those." Like, well, why? Why do you
fine.
have to? You
Yeah,
don't have to.
that's a limit.
You
That's a
know.
limiting belief. That is an excuse that we get into a lot. It's I have a whole thing. Uh, I've been thinking about. Unfortunately, I don't think any. I don't think any of the people that need to hear it would hear it on my platform. Um, Doing some content specifically targeted at husbands because right now husbands are ticking me off because that is a thing that I get all the time. Now, granted, the spouse, they have things that they need to work on because it really isn't up to anyone else in the family to make your decision for you. So that is one part of the discussion. But at the same time, having a partner and understanding what it means to be a good partner. Any husbands that are listening to this, if you are doing anything to sabotage your spouse or anyone in your family from improving their health, I don't have harsh enough words for you. Okay.
Yeah,
Your
that is.
job as their partner is to help them become the best version of themselves that they can be. And if you are afraid of that, if you are trying to keep that down because it's not something you want to do, then take a look in the mirror and figure out where you're going with your life because you're the one holding them back. And in more cases than not, that relationship isn't going where you think it's going to go.
Yeah, it's the insecurity of having, I don't want other guys looking at my wife, so let her not lose weight. All those things are the threats. There's so much dysfunction
Oh
around.
my
And
God. It
Tro and I
drives me
have talked
crazy.
about this for years too. It's like, okay, the biggest cause of being derailed is stress. Number two is lack of family support. So if
Hmm.
you're home and family's eating pizza every night, they're not supporting you. Okay, dad's trying to lose weight or mom's trying to lose weight. Maybe we'll eat this on our own, or maybe we'll do something different, or hey, let's all do steak instead, or whatever.
Sure.
I think it's amazing how much lack of support there is out there, and that's why doing stuff like what you're doing, community, building, Zoom meetings where someone's just flailing and then everyone else goes, oh, I was
Yep.
there 2 weeks ago. I can help you on that. Here's what I did. It
Yeah.
helped me, and that advice is the best. Like you said, it doesn't have to be from a degree. It's life experience. When you're around, you start realizing, oh, why are we blowing it? You don't need to have a huge degree to see that what's happening in front of you,
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to the relationship partner spouse thing, that dynamic, the struggle is real as a coach when you're talking to people because I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to say, just leave them. That's like your life
Yeah,
would be
you
so
have to
much
say,
better
like,
if
do
you
they
just
have your best
left,
interest at heart, right?
you
You look
know?
at that.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it is.
and I hate to say that, having been through that myself and understanding, divorce is not fun, especially when you have kids. Um, but long term, I think for the most part, I'm better off having done it. So, that's my experience. I'll just leave that there.
Well, I'm the happily married guy, so I can't really help you with
Yeah,
that.
right.
But I get it. When
I'm
you
not
if you
I'm
have
not
a
knocking marriage. I just think, every relationship has its own thing. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, I know, and it's one of those things. If you have a business partner who's spending all the money for the
right.
business, you have to at some point you go, okay, this isn't going to work. We got to figure out either
Yep.
we get on this common ground, or like if we're working together, you say, okay, Brian, this isn't working for me. You're a jerk to me every day. Okay, we got to figure that out. But the lack of communication and I think all that the stress that builds up makes you more like it's so clear. People get stressed. They get into an argument with their husband. They go, "I want to cook you," or they get in an argument with their wife and I need a beer. Those
Yeah.
kind of things. And when we start getting these poor coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
and so
Well,
you know,
that's another good point. And this is let's talk about the flip side of the conversation, right? Because there's always two sides of the coin. In a lot of cases, when a client comes to me and says that their family's not supportive, it has nothing to do with their family. They've never actually gone to their family and said, "Hey, I need your help. I'm trying to do this. Would you
totally,
support me?"
yeah,
So it's
totally.
a belief, or it's an imagined conversation that they've preloaded in their head about what's going to happen if they go talk to their family, because they think their response will be X, Y, or Z because they're scared to commit. If I tell my family, that means I actually have to do it. And then if I do it, they're going to hold me to that, right? I'm putting out accountability now when I ask them to support me because they're going to be giving to me. That's a whole nother aspect. I've never had asked my family to do something for me. I'm always doing something for them.
Mm,
So there's a whole bunch of things that kind of go into that dynamic of going
yeah,
to your family and asking for support too.
same thing. Like, hey, can you watch your kid for an hour so I can get to the gym? Those kind of things
Yep.
where people and they'll
Yep.
ask, oh yeah, no problem, I'll take care of that. You take care of
Hmm.
this, I'll take, and it all works out. So I think getting all those relationship things figured out, that's a huge, huge deal.
Absolutely.
And so what's the biggest thing you think you learned like over this last year of kind of getting introspective, writing your book? Was there anything that
Yeah.
that surprised you or something that you said, yeah, this is a huge thing that I hadn't thought of before?
Oh my gosh. The whole book.
Yeah, the whole book, yeah.
No, I mean,
Well, we can't
literally
give the
like
whole
the
thing
whole
away,
book.
but I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think the biggest thing is understanding the concepts of what I'm trying to build with this is introduce people to the idea of how to evaluate what you're doing, apply the information, look at who you are, where you're trying to go, and then pick the choices that are going to make the best bang for the buck. So I think in general, I think the whole concept in and of itself is the fact that the journey, everybody's journey can fit into a framework. And there's checkpoints along the way that everybody goes through, right? We may go through them at different times. We may go through them in a slightly different order, but there's a certain set of things that we can look at to evaluate where we're going, where we are, where we want to go, put a plan in place to get there, and then check and see how we're doing. And if we learn that framework, we can repeat that framework over and over and over as we progress through our journey. And we will never have a stall. We will never get stuck. We will never get too far off the path because we're always following the process of what success actually requires. And that's really what the book is for. It's a critical thinking guide to your journey because it walks you through that framework. And it kind of says, hey, look, if you start here, if you can say yes to these 5 questions, then you know you're looking at things, you understand the issue and you understand where you're trying to go, and you have a good idea of what's going to get you there. Then you look at these next few things. If you can say yes to these questions, if you understand and define what your motivation is, and you know how that's going to keep you going when times are hard, and then you can identify what good nutrition is and how you're going to do it, and you're going to identify what good fitness is and how you're going to do it, then you know the choices that you're going to make in your life are going to be sustainable and you can keep those things going. And then when you're ready to move to the next level, you just start the process over again.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. And course
So
correcting.
understanding that all of that stuff works in a framework and it's something you can actually look at on a piece of paper and say, I just got to do these things and repeat that cycle over. It clarified so many things for me about how
Yeah,
this
I'm
whole thing
excited about
works.
it, man. I can't wait till
Yeah.
June though.
Well, it's out. No, so it's out on pre-order now.
Oh, awesome. All right.
And the now so it's out on pre-order, but the we're not launching till September, so it's launching Labor Day weekend.
September.
September, I know, right?
That's awesome, man. Congrats. This is
Appreciate it.
exciting. This
Yeah,
is exciting.
it's gonna be a blast. I'm really excited for it. I think it's gonna help a lot of people. And just a side note too, I'm actually working with Nutrition Network. I did a master class for them based on the framework because it really works well from a clinical perspective. You can take the framework and implement some of the concepts into a clinical practice. So if there's any other doctors listening and things like that, the framework fits really well in that structure, from a framework for helping with patient success.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just completed a couple of their courses and got my metabolic health certificate, all that kind
Hey,
of fun stuff.
awesome. All right, cool. Yeah.
Officially, I just
Nice.
had to finish those things up. So yeah, that's cool. They're doing great work. And so we'll put all the contact information in the show notes, like where people can find you on social media and where they find you, how to get the book and order it early and
Mhm.
all that.
Appreciate it.
And I have to ask you, what's life's best medicine for you?
Life's best medicine. Wow. Can
Like,
I
where
give
do
you
you
a
go when
couple
things are
answers?
hard? Where do you go with what keeps you going,
Yeah.
getting you out of bed, getting you motivated to get to the
I,
gym, do whatever?
yeah. I'll give you two things. One is actual physical movement. I think just movement in general, getting out and going for a walk, working out, whatever else. And the reason, two things. One, the physical response from doing that, um, the mental aspect of when I do that, it helps me maintain a habit of self awareness. So if I get that time to say, why don't I feel motivated right now? What is stressing me out? Where am I going? What is it? What are the things that are rattling in my head that made me feel like I wanted to sit on the couch today? So when I'm feeling stressed, whatever else, getting up and doing something is I think the number one thing for me.
Ah, that's great. Great
Yeah.
advice, man. Good
So
stuff.
that's that.
Well, hey, good
Works
seeing
it
you.
works most of the time. I don't know if it works every time. It works most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, man. You're doing great work, and thanks for all you're doing. And are we connecting on the cruise? Are you going on the low carb cruise?
Yeah, we're speaking on the cruise. I'll be
Oh, sweet,
speaking, I
man.
think,
Good.
on
Yeah.
day one or day two. Nat speaking on day three, I think.
Yeah,
So
awesome,
we'll
man.
see
We're
you
gonna have
there.
a good time.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to that. That'll be a good break.
Yeah.
And everyone, hey, you know, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Listen to this. There's some gold level stuff. This is like platinum, like relationship. Look at that. Why am I not having success? Why am I struggling? These kind of things. Why do I not want to go to the gym? Why do I not want to put down the cookies or whatever? I think we all have to, we all go through our cycles. So kind of look at that and great advice of saying, hey, let's bring in, I need support. I need help in this. Reach out to a friend or family or someone, let them know what you're doing. Even though some of them are going to say you're crazy, but you have to be patient and say, okay, give me 4 months and see what happens in 4 months if I'm making progress, right? And
Yeah.
believe in yourself and believe in this stuff. And then the book, Body Confidence, right?
Body confident. Yep.
Yeah, I think just being confident and just being strong in what you do is like, like you can make it to the top of that hill when you go on a hike. You don't have to sit in the car and let everyone else go. And I know so many people are living their lives like that. So just do what you can, just do it. If it's just making your bed today, if it's just, opening the pickle jar, anything like that, that you
Yes.
can just get on a road And this is great advice for all of us. So, Coach, thanks for joining me. It was great having you.
Absolutely. As always, thanks for having me, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
For sure. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.